What's up, NYM? Super glad to be with you guys tonight on virtual NYM. Have you ever had an identity crisis? Maybe for you, you woke up this morning and the question of who you are is really on your mind because you looked in the mirror and maybe you're like me and you got some serious quarantine afro going on. Maybe you haven't shaved in a while. But either way, a lot of people in our society are struggling right now with what's called an identity crisis. And the definition of an identity crisis is this: a period of uncertainty and confusion in which a person's sense of identity becomes insecure, typically due to a change in their expected aim or role in society. Man, that definition couldn't be more true to a lot of the people I've interacted with on a daily basis. People's role in society is rapidly changing because of the season we're in. People who've rooted their identity in their careers have maybe been told they're unessential. Athletes who've rooted their identity in their athletics are being told now they can't play. Fields are empty. Stadiums are empty. Sports have been put on hold. What does that do for someone whose identity has been rooted in the athletics? Well, according to that definition, it causes insecurity, it causes anxiety, and we can see that in the world we're living in today. And I'm super excited. My wife, Emma, who's pregnant with our son, is going to share a little bit about her story when it comes to identity.
Hey, NYM, it's Emma Ferrante. I am the 6th grade small group leader. Special shout out to my girls. I miss you. And I really wish we were together, and hopefully we will be soon. But while we're in this weird quarantine, social distancing, COVID-19 season, I think this topic of identity is really important because we can feel like maybe our identity that we were putting in our sports or schools or academics or friend circles that kind of got pulled out from underneath us, and now we are left with a lot of time at home, a lot of time to think about things. And if you're like me, different seasons of my life, I've definitely struggled with identity and putting my identity in Christ in different ways. In high school, it was, I was putting my identity in sports or, performing in athletics, or and for certain friend groups, I was finding my identity in relationships, finding out like what career I wanted to choose, if that was going to be my identity. And then flash forward to now, as an adult, I still, we still struggle with identity and putting it in Christ in the right place where it needs to be. And for me right now, my identity, I feel like sometimes I can obviously put it into being a mom because that's my main job and that's the calling that God's put on my life. But even in this season of momhood, I still need to put my identity in Christ and put my focus where it needs to be, on Him and pleasing Him. And ultimately, my identity is not momhood. It's not, being a nurse or being a wife. It's being a child of God. And when I do get caught in moments of thinking that, my only identity is being a mom and looking for fulfillment in those, areas, being a wife to Joe or whatever, I like to remind myself of this verse, 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. That verse is so powerful. God chose us. He chose you and He chose me. We are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. And I hope that verse encourages you guys just to remember whose you are, that, your identity is not found on what you do or the friends you have, the, seniors, the job that you ultimately land in, the career choice that you make, the college you go to. Those are all just, things that God has given us and choices that we get to make, but that's not who we are. We are Christ, and we are to be an example for Him and a light for Him. And I hope that you guys can hopefully take some encouragement from that. I hope to see you guys soon in person. Zoom is cool. but hanging out at NYM is way better. So with that, I love you guys, and I will see you soon.
And when I think about this idea of identity crisis or having your identity rooted in the right place, I can't help but think about one of my childhood heroes who had a pretty serious identity crisis. See, for me, I haven't had a lot of identity crises. Okay, maybe that was a little bit of a lie. I have had definitely some identity crisis, but my childhood hero, you guys might know him. His name is Buzz Lightyear. Buzz can teach us a ton about identity, and I think something that Buzz experienced reflects a narrative I think in the Bible. So Buzz, tell the NYM students, how can they have security in their identity?
Hold on to your batteries. There's turbulence ahead.
No, but for real, Buzz can teach us a ton about identity. In Toy Story 1, Buzz Lightyear believes he is a space ranger. In the movie, there's this key moment that happens where Buzz is confronted with a commercial showing clearly that he's a toy. And he doesn't want to accept it because his entire identity is rooted in the fact that he's really a space ranger.
Star Command!
Do you read me?
Buzz Lightyear responding, read you loud and clear.
Buzz Lightyear, planet Earth needs your help.
On the way.
Buzz Lightyear! The world's greatest superhero, now the world's greatest toy! To infinity and beyond!
See, for Buzz, that wrong identity led him to a bad place. It led him to a destructive place. And we can see that in our society right now. There are people, you go on Google right now, and you search up the effects of COVID-19 on teenagers, and you're going to see article after article about anxiety, about hurting, about sadness, isolation. People are struggling right now. And if their identity was rooted, like Emma said, in anything other than Jesus, there's a lot of insecurity, a lot of uncertainty that's happening right now. When we know whose we are, it changes who we are. It changes the way we view who we are. And we can live differently. Not only can we live differently, but we can start to believe what God says about us. And when we believe what God says about us, all the other voices in our lives that tell us that we're essential or not essential, those voices don't matter. God's voice is what matters. What if we as Christ followers truly understood the fact that we belong to Jesus? That because of whose we are, we can truly know who we are. And when we know who we are, we can know what to do in the world we're living in. We want to give you guys a chance to reflect on this truth. So Nate Battle was gracious enough to record him singing a song. As you hear the words of this worship song, I want you to reflect on whose you are. I want you to reflect on the one who purchased you, the one who dwells inside of you, Jesus. And then I want you to think about and write down what that means for you personally, what it means to be a child of God, what it means for your identity. There's going to be some very specific things in this song that are said that you could find in Ephesians chapter 1. Things that God says about you, things that define who you are, what your true identity as a Christ follower is. So during the song, if you want to sing, that's awesome. If you have the gift of singing, if you don't, you might want to hit that mute button and save all your friends from having to hear that.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Yes, his love for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. A free last, he has ransomed me. chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am.
All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. As you guys had a small group, I hope that you were encouraged by tonight. A little bit of a different vibe, but I truly believe that when you understand whose you are, you're going to live differently. And not only do you live differently, but you start to really believe what Jesus has to say about you. So I would encourage you throughout this week in your small group, read Ephesians 1, read 2 Peter chapter 1. Listen to that song on repeat and walk through this world, walk through this life, this quarantine season with confidence because of whose you are. And because of whose you are, it changes who you are and what you can do with your life.